Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the first edition of Season 2 of WST Sunday Live. My name is Connor Hrabchak. Super excited for you to all be joining us this morning. And shortly, I'm going to be joined by Lyss Houde, my co-host, and we're going to be with you every single Sunday at 9 a.m. through the rest of the hockey season. We are super fired up to get going. As you can see, we got a little bit of a different look this year. We're streaming through a different software. We're going to be doing more pre-tapes, more content, more. And we are so excited for the 2025-26 Winnipeg Jets season and for training camp to get started. And I already see some people in chat saying Bombers season. We won't have to talk about it. We'll get Lyss's thoughts because we were both there at the Banjo Bowl yesterday, but not a good result for the blue and gold on home field. But it's okay because hockey season is right around the corner. Winnipeg Jets training camp starting in about 2 weeks. September 18th, I believe, is the first day of skates, training camp skates at the Hockey for All Center. Lyss and I will be there covering the Winnipeg Jets throughout this entire season, and we'll have you covered right here on WST Sunday Live at 9 a.m. Before I bring in Lyss, I just want to give a shout out to everyone in chat. A lot of the usuals, Les Thompson, Dallas Paul's Comet. Good to see you all back for season 2 of WST Sunday Live. Without further ado, let's bring in my co-host on WST Sunday Live, Lyss Houde. Lyss, it's been about a month and a bit since we've been live on the air. How has your summer been? And what have you been up to in August?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I need some Ken Weave intro music here. This is so fun. I was watching Connor do the intro of the show. I'm like, oh my goodness, how fun. But it's so good to be back. So good to see everybody in the chat. So nice to see you all. Summer's been good. Not honestly anything too crazy. I don't know, you can probably relate to me. The last couple summers, well, this summer and the summer before were kind of interesting because post-school, it's like, okay, summer is just kind of life now, but I feel like hockey season kind of helps me feel like summer is actually summer. But over the course of the summer, I could not take a break from hockey. I put in a ton of work into my own podcast to make sure that I was still kind of fueling my own hockey content. I moved out, so that was really fun. So this is going to be the last episode, unfortunately, that you guys are going to see with the hat wall for the foreseeable future because I don't really feel like lugging this all into the city to my new place. But I have a new place, very excited. Closer to the rink, which is really nice. Everyone knows that I kind of live out in the boonies. So all is well. I see everybody in the chat. So nice to see Les, Dallas, Al, Comment, all of our regulars. Dallas, just so you know, I do have a nice coffee, but I had to travel all the way from the city out to my parents' place this morning. So I picked up a coffee, but I have an empty mason jar beside me. So this is, we have it in your honor. But I'm so excited to be back and talk about some Winnipeg Jets hockey with you all.
We are so back. We're having a good time here on WST Sunday Live. We got the mason jars. We got the iced coffee. I have my coffee. I know usually I have a nicer mug, although this one is nice.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a lame mug. You usually have so many exciting ones.
I know. Well, yeah, I haven't done the dishes. So I moved out this summer as well. And there's a little peek. Yeah, I need to do the dishes. Anyways, nice Chicago mug to kick things off. As we will be talking about the Central Division here on today's edition of WST Sunday Live. And Waiter's saying he made it. He can't believe he made it this early in the morning. Spency's saying still morning. Why are you awake? The chat is in mid-season form. Comment, did I get blonde streaks or am I graying? I'm having lighting issues. The sun is beaming into this room that I'm in.
I told Connor he looked tan when we first got started. I was like, oh my gosh, I look like a ghost. Like, he looks tan.
I did burn quite a bit at in Banff. That was my one big summer vacation. Right. I'm sure people saw I was posting way too much. But that was my second big summer vacation. Also went to see Coldplay in Toronto in the summer with my mom, which was an absolute blast. So we had a good summer. We refreshed, we recharged, and we're back and ready to talk about those pesky Winnipeg Jets. As training camp, like I said, is about a week and a bit away. September 18th, the first skates. Lyss, I saw T. Will earlier mentioning your fantasy football drafting. We will be getting into the WST Listener League later on. We will get into that because I have my thoughts as well, as I am a late addition to that league. But let's start with the Jets. I do want to just give you kind of an open-ended question to kick off season 2 of WST Sunday Live, kick off this episode, because look, there's so many storylines going into training camp, going into this season. What's maybe the number one thing on your mind? Is it Kyle Connor's contract? What's the number one thing on your mind right now, September 7th, as we gear up for the 2025-26 Jets season?
Yeah, weirdly enough, I think it's not Kyle Connor. I think it's moving a little bit further down the lineup into that middle six. People are going to think I'm crazy, but you know what? We're just getting off on the right foot this season because you always think that. But the Mason Appleton absence is something that's going to be so fascinating to me, coupled with the Nikolai Ehlers absence.
Okay.
Just because between the two of them, that middle six is going to look significantly different than what we've seen in the past. Mm-hmm. Mason Appleton has been stapled to Adam Lowry's side for much of his tenure with the Winnipeg Jets. So we don't really know what that third line is going to look like, or second line really, because as we know, that third line sometimes is the second line, depending on matchups, depending on ice time. It really differs at 5-on-5. But no Nikolai Ehlers on the second line, who has been pretty much the only constant on that line in the last however many years. And then starting the season without Adam Lowry is kind of whatever, because you know that he's coming back, but Mason Appleton is not coming back. So that third line is also going to look entirely different. So I am really, really curious to see what the Winnipeg Jets want to try out there, if they're going to move some stuff around to try and give identities or roles to these particular lines, just because I feel like there hasn't been a ton of identity specifically to that on paper second line in the last few years, other than you're too good to be a depth guy, but also you can't play with Mark Scheifele. Like, you know, there's been a lot of kind of question marks around what that second line could do. So I'm really looking at that middle six group of forwards and seeing kind of what training camp is going to bring for them. If there's opportunity for young guys to get some opportunities there, what Cole Perfetti's role is going to look like, all these different things. So that's kind of what I am really curious to see going into this year.
I love how I give you the most open-ended, you know, what are your thoughts on the season? You immediately go Mason Appleton. Like we're so back. We're going straight to the bottom six.
Guys.
Kyle Connor's like a year away from pending UFA.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is.
We go straight to Mason Appleton in the absence. No, but
you know what? I didn't make it about Billy Hanela, so you know what? We'll take our victories where we can get them.
It's a good point though, because Adam Lowry has been stapled to Mason Appleton's hip for the better part of like 3 or 4 seasons now since he returned from Seattle, and even before that as well. I do like, on the theme of, you know, middle six, what does it look like? I like this comment from Dom Zappia. Nyquist will be a big surprise, he says. Gustav Nyquist is interesting to me. We've outlined him before we went into our break in August list. We outlined Nyquist as a potential positive regression candidate. When he was with the Minnesota Wild last year in the regular season and playoffs, his on-ice shooting percentage was, I believe, 4% or 3.5%. That is absurdly low. Yeah. So he's a positive regression candidate.
And sorry, for context, everyone, like hanging out around 10 is like pretty norm, just so everyone's kind of aware of how insane that is comparatively.
Like, he got pretty unlucky. Like, and you could make the argument, did he earn his luck? Probably not. It probably wasn't a great fit in Minnesota. And then before that, even with Nashville, he wasn't having that great of a season. But he is just 1 year removed from a 75-point year with Nashville. I'm not saying he's getting back to that point. I actually would say there's no chance he gets back to that point. But a 40, 45-point player in the middle six, playing with Cole Perfetti, playing with Jonathan Toews, playing on the second power play. I'm really interested to see how those three mesh, because I think that's going to be the second line to start the season. It's Nyquist, Toews, and Perfetti. And stylistically, that would work. Like, they're all kind of smart players who aren't burners. And I think that could kind of work. And whether or not, again, the loss of Nikolai Ehlers, you're not bringing that back. I don't think it's going to work as if they had Nikolai Ehlers anyways. But I do think that there's something to be had there on the second line, especially with the fact all three players are very smart players. They're not burners, and they're very smart. And I think that can work. And I will say, on defense, you brought up Ville Heinola. I will just quickly,
Sorry, my bad.
I will just quickly say that it is an interesting storyline, because there are 9 defensemen under contract right now with the Winnipeg Jets. We all assume that we're just getting one day closer to Elliot Friedman's tweet that Ville Heinola has hit waivers. Like, that's kind of the expectation. Can that change? Are the Jets going to do anything to change that? I don't think so. I don't see a path unless they trade a defenseman this close to camp, which I don't see happening. And then what does that mean for Elias Salamonson as well on the D-corps? Because he's a player, played a full season with the Moose last year. Coaches, media, everyone who watched him raved about how good he was in his first pro season. There's really no path for him to make the Winnipeg Jets unless there's injury. There's no path list.
Well, is it a crazy take to say that I'm okay with that? Because I
Sure.
think that
No, it's not.
another season with the Manitoba Moose will do Elias Hellebuyck some good. And okay, you want to talk about making something about Mason Appleton, Ville Heinola.
Yeah.
It took me, what are we at, 13 minutes to make it about the Manitoba Moose, because I'm also always going to do that.
We're back.
I am kind of high on the Manitoba Moose going into this year. Not like anything too optimistic or anything like that, but I don't think that this is some like pit team that is just going to be awful or anything like that. Like, I think there are going to be enough good players on that team. I think it's a good enough group that Elias Hallmunson still has a ton that he can learn from playing a massive role with them. I don't think that there's any need to particularly rush him into the lineup. I'm a fan of Elias Hallmunson's, I am, but I think that there are a lot of people who are putting a lot of pressure on what they think this player is capable of right now. And I'm not there. I'm not sold on Elias Hallmunson coming in and making a really positive NHL impact right now. I could see a Dylan Samberg-esque route of coming in. And obviously we know that Dylan Samberg has been fantastic in his larger role, particularly last year with the Winnipeg Jets, but he didn't start like that. He was playing in the babysitter role with Dylan DeMello when he first started, kind of in that COVID era and things like that. Maybe that's the route for Elias Hallmunson, to not have to come in and make a splash right away. I want to see him play those big, tough minutes in the AHL. I know he did for a decent amount of last year. He was also hurt for a little bit of last year too, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with Elias Hallmunson spending another season with the Manitoba Moose. Maybe there's a principal discussion to have where Cole Perfetti, being 23 years old and the youngest player on the Winnipeg Jets, is probably not ideal. But I don't think that you need to push a square peg into a round hole here. If Elias Hallmunson has a lot to learn from the AHL, which I think he does, I have no problem watching him play another few games with the Manitoba Moose.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on Elias not necessarily needing the extra AHL time more than maybe other prospects, but I'm okay with him starting the season with the Manitoba Moose as well. And look, the Winnipeg Jets, let me just bring up their cap page really quickly, because yes, they have 9 defensemen under contract going into this season, but next year, I mean, they have Logan Stanley, who's a UFA, Colin Miller's a UFA, and Luke Shen is a UFA, and they just signed Hayden Fleury to a 2-year deal. So,
and sorry, where's Ville Heinola at in that stretch there?
He's got 1 year left. He's got 1 year left as well. He's got one,
but he's a UFA in the same group as them.
I believe so. He's not on the Jets page, but I believe he's a UFA. Yes. I have to go down. Okay. I have to go down. Yeah, he's a UFA. Okay. He's a UFA.
He's a UFA in that same stretch as them. Yeah.
We're so back. We got Ville Heinola cap sheet shenanigans going on. But no, I will say that bodes well for Elias Hallmunson to have another year with the Manitoba Moose in the AHL. Show the coaching staff that it wasn't a fluke this past year. Show the coaching staff that you can improve in the AHL, playing again a massive role, and then step right into an NHL spot the next season. And again, if there's an injury on the blue line, Elias Hallmunson will be the first call up, and they'll get him in. But I don't see a scenario in which he cracks the Winnipeg Jets out of camp. I know that's not something that people want to hear, but with 9 defensemen and 1 probably already going on waivers, I don't see a way in which they make that 2 just to get Elias Hallmunson in there. So I'm firmly in the camp that I think Hallmunson starts on the Moose, and I'm with you, Lyss, that I don't think that's such a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'll say to maybe poke a hole into my own argument here, frankly, is that he was one of, if not the last cut at camp last year, right? Like, this team wants to see him do well. They want to see him get some reps in with this group and all that sort of stuff. So listen, I could be pleasantly surprised, but I think that logjam on D is just kind of speaks for itself. And, you know, we saw at the end of last season, Hayden Fleury's role kind of upped in what he was able to do. He was a guy who was brought in, you know, just this time last year, was likely supposed to be just some AHL depth and maybe play some nice minutes for the Moose, but turned out to have a larger role than I think anyone was really anticipating all that much. And Luke Shen was also an addition later, and all those different things. It'll be really interesting to see how they manage that group. I know that we have some content planned later in this segment, and maybe I'll spoil one of my things now. I have a date circled for my over under of when we get the Elliot Friedman, Ville Heinola waiver streak, because I think it's inevitable at this point. Yeah. Nice. It's my only contribution to the show that you planned out. I had to find a way to make it about Ville Heinola. So
that's great. I can't wait to take the under, meaning like closer. I can't wait. No, he'll definitely be.
He's gonna hit waivers today.
Yeah. No, strategically though, he's definitely like a last day of waivers, like the last they try and slide him through. That's going to be my strategy for when you hit me with that over under. Before we get to, right. I do want to get to some over unders, and the chat can play along with us, and that'll be fun. So we'll have that coming up in just a second here. But before we do that, Lyss, we should talk about Kyle Connor's contract, because this is, I think, the biggest storyline going into camp for the Winnipeg Jets, maybe besides Jonathan Toews and how he looks on the ice, how he looks returning to hockey. It's so funny looking around the league and seeing Kirill Kaprizov in the same scenario, Connor McDavid in the same scenario. And Connor McDavid, I mean, that is the biggest story in hockey right now. The fact that guy doesn't have a contract. If Jets fans are stressing about Kyle Connor not having a contract, Connor McDavid not having one should give you a little bit of peace, because if you were an Oilers fan, I mean, I'd be absolutely losing my mind that the best player in hockey is not signed beyond this season. But where I'm at with Kyle Connor's contract, I don't think there's any issue it gets done, Lyss. I think it's going to be 8 years. I think it's going to be $12 million per. And that might be the boring answer, but I think that's where we're headed. Where are you at with Kyle Connor and the contract heading into training camp? And maybe I'll ask you, because I asked Huss on the Daily Show as well, at what point do you get worried that he's not signed?
Yeah, I think it's a good kind of two-tier question there, because I'm not Connor McDavid worried about, the whole idea of where we're at right now. It's beginning of September. We saw, I will never ever forget. I feel like my Roman Empire is 2 off seasons ago, this time being like, why is Connor Hellebuyck not traded yet? Why is Mark Scheifele not traded yet? What's going on with this team? And then everyone knows my story of being about to jump on like an 11-hour flight from Vancouver to Japan. And it's like, oh, happy Thanksgiving. Matching contracts for these two, like unreal. 2 days before the season starts, right? So you never know what's going to come out of these negotiations and when these contracts could come. It could happen anytime, really, and we know that. But I think your 8x12 figure is pretty reasonable. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit more of a bargain, kind of more in that like 11.5 range or anything like that. Getting into that 13 million camp would be crazy to me, to be honest with you, just based on what I know about this team and what I know about not necessarily the player. I understand that goals are at a premium and you pay guys who can score goals, but it just doesn't really seem like something the Winnipeg Jets would be, not willing's the wrong word. It just doesn't seem like something they would do, to jump from having, $8.5 million players to all of a sudden going up to by $5 to $6 million. And that AAV just sounds a little bit outside of the landscape of what I anticipate this team is going to do with him. I also don't think that 12 million is like an unreasonable point. I don't think Kyle Connor should be like, oh my gosh, I left so much money on the table if that's the deal that he's offered and ends up signing. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. Not the what is it, the Kirill Kaprizov 8x16 million that's being floated around or something right now, or anything like that.
What do you think about that? Like, do you think that's a lot? I think that's a lot.
Yes.
Like,
I think that's a lot. I don't understand.
Is a very special player, like very, very special. He's probably a top 7-5 skater in the National Hockey League in terms of pure talent. But 16 million?
I mean, it's the sort of thing that I could see it. I don't know what the temperature check is on all these other teams in the league, but it's the sort of thing where it's like, it's the Minnesota Wild. Okay. We've talked about how this team is not like super, like, I don't know if interesting is the right word. I've gotten a little higher on them lately, and maybe this is spoiling my Central Division predictions or anything like that. But like, they're not as boring as they were 4 years ago, if that helps. But I think that they're the type of team that can totally get away with this, where it's like 8 years of having a guy who can sell tickets, and then you can sort of build stuff around that. It's not enough of an AAV with the cap going up that it's going to handicap you so horribly that you can't build a competitive team around it, I don't think. Yeah. That being said, that's not a super movable contract, in my opinion, if that's a concern of yours, because if he's making $3 million more than any other player in the league when he's not even the Connor McDavid tier above everybody else, that's kind of fascinating to me. Yeah. But I think that there are a lot of teams that can get away with a thing like that, where, even like the Chicago Blackhawks or something, sign Connor Bedard to whatever you want, because you have the money to do it, and you're not necessarily going to be fielding a Stanley Cup contender in the immediate future. So if the first 2 years of Kirill Kaprizov's contract, like, they're kind of retooling the other pieces around him and trying to figure out what to do with Marco Rossi and all these different things, okay, who cares? Like, the cap is going up. Like, I don't think it's at the end of the day as big of a deal breaker. It's just the shock factor and like the face value of what? Like Leon Draisaitl signed a $12.5 million contract and almost broke the internet because it's like, that's the highest we've ever seen. And all of a sudden we're going to go up so much more. And percentage wise, incrementally, that's way more than what the cap is going 100%. Up comparatively, right? Like that's a lot. But all that's to say, Kirill Kaprizov is very good. So is Kyle Connor. Back to the question that I know you asked me about 10 minutes ago now. If we reach, like, I would go so far as to say the new year, because I think that there's some early stuff here. Like, I don't know if prove it year is the right thing, because there's nothing that Kyle Connor needs to prove, but the whole idea of wanting to play, pardon me, to earn what you're going to earn. Like, if he scores, I'm dying. Sorry.
I could jump in.
Like a million goals. No, it's okay. Like a million goals right off the hop. He could jump his AAV up by like $1 million, right? So if he wants the opportunity to do that, I could see it. Sorry, I need to like cough and die for a second.
Cheering up. Oh, this Kyle Connor contract, so emotional. No. Anyways, I'll jump in because there are, you know, people in chat are asking, and Choice is TK, who's a loyal WST Sunday Live listener, watcher, always here in chat, asking great questions like this one. What is the date we get really concerned that Kyle Connor hasn't signed a new deal? Lyss just said the new year. Kyle Connor is coming off the best season of his career. And there's really no doubt about that. I think it would be in his best interest to take, if a 12-by-8 is on the table, which we don't know that it is, but we're speculating. If that's on the table, I think it's in his best interest to take that, because he is coming off the best season of his career. His value will never be higher. This is his chance to really cash in. And I think playing into the season, again, like Liz said, not that Kyle Connor has anything to prove or like he's going to fall off a cliff or anything. But what if he does start slow? What if he gets hurt? He's been very durable over the course of his career, but he did have that one knee-on-knee where he got hurt. Like, it's hockey. Stuff happens. And I think he wants to be here long-term. I think the Jets will have no issue paying him. What the day is where I start to get concerned is opening night. If we're all there at Canada Life Center and the Jets are raising their President's Trophy banner and Kyle Connor is still a pending UFA, I'm not saying that it's like DEFCON 1, like this is absolutely worst case scenario, but that's when I start to say, all right, hockey is being played now. There's a chance that we in the media get told that this isn't a big deal and they'll figure it out until he's a pending UFA and walks. Just kind of like the Nikolai Ehlers thing where it's like, yeah, it'll get figured out. And he's a Carolina Hurricane, right? So once the season starts, things can really quiet down in that regard. And I think that's why it gets concerning for me, because it's not necessarily an everyday topic once we get to the season. Can we get to the season and Kyle Connor signs a massive extension middle of November? Absolutely. I just think the chances of that happening go down once we reach October 9th, which is the Jets home opener. Lyss, thoughts? Are you good now?
I'm good, guys. Okay. Just in case everyone is concerned. Good.
Sweet.
I think I don't want to draw exact comparisons to the Nikolai Ehlers situation, because I don't know. I'm not trying to necessarily defend the way it played out, but the whole thing is that I think the Winnipeg Jets far exceeded expectations last year, and the whole idea of having Nikolai Ehlers as a self-rental, the smart. Only way it would have been justifiable would be if they were the President's Trophy winning team, right? Like, which they were. So it's really hard, I think, to compare this exact situation. I don't anticipate the Winnipeg Jets are going to win the President's Trophy this year, just so everyone's aware. I think that, you know, there is some regression on its way for a couple of the players and a couple of the different, you know, if we want to go into the analytics of it all, like some of their shooting percentage and all that sort of stuff, it's more likely to get worse than it is to get better in a lot of those different areas. But all that's to say, I think that this is a pretty different situation. This is a player that for Nikolai Ehlers, I don't know what was going on behind closed doors there, but I was never really, really, really convinced that this player was going to be a Winnipeg Jet long-term after the start of last season. Kyle Connor is a different story. I am much more confident that this is a player who is willing and able to stay with the Winnipeg Jets. So that's why I feel like I don't have the same kind of worry about it playing out. I will maybe walk back my point a little bit then and say, you know, if we actually are sitting here in 2026 in January and there is no Kyle Connor contract on the table, I do think that, you know, a lot of teams are going to be starting to call, because the further along this gets, the lower the price gets until you get to that right before the trade deadline stretch. Trading for Kyle Connor in January for teams would be a dream come true for pretty much any competitive team in the National Hockey League, right? So I think there is a lot of question marks around the Kyle Connor situation, but I don't think it's the same as the Nikolai Ehlers situation. I think that there are some parallels for sure, obviously with a all-star pending UFA, but that's kind of where the similarities start and end for me.
I'm with you on that. And I've made this very clear. I made this clear, I believe, on our last episode before heading into our summer break. This is not the Nikolai Ehlers situation. The Nikolai Ehlers situation, I'm okay with how that played out. Now, I know Phyllis is a loyal WSTer. She's usually here in chat. I know if you're a big Nikolai Ehlers fan, like Phyllis is, you probably don't want to hear that because Nikolai Ehlers is no longer with the Winnipeg Jets and he's going to spend the next 6 years in Carolina. But the Winnipeg Jets were a President's Trophy winning team last year. They were first around the trade deadline. I wasn't sitting there on trade deadline day saying, when are they going to trade Nikolai Ehlers? Kyle Connor is different, and he's 100% different. And this is a good comment here. If he's not signed, you have to trade him. You can't afford losing another player of Connor's caliber for nothing. Nikolai Ehlers, I'd almost venture or argue to say that you can afford to lose him for nothing just because he was older when he became a pending UFA, or I guess he's the same age as Kyle Connor, but he's not as dynamic. He's not well, okay, no, that's a bad take because Nikolai Ehlers is very dynamic. Kyle Connor has been a top line player and a power play like dominant player for a long time. Nikolai Ehlers has been a 5-on-5 dominant player for a long time. I still think that the way the Winnipeg Jets are built, the self-rental was the right move in that scenario, whereas you can't justify a self-rental for a player that's going to make a 12/8 on the open market or anything of that, that sort of contract.
The way I look at it too is with the Nikolai Ehlers thing is that, say last year, Nikolai Ehlers, the player as we know and love him, was playing for one of 31 other teams in the league, or maybe not 31 other teams, a seller in the league last year. If the Winnipeg Jets didn't, the same way that we talked about the Brock Nelson thing, whatever, like this, look at it this way. If Nikolai Ehlers was available to trade for, with the way the team was constructed last year, you would have been upset if they didn't do everything they could to trade for that player, to give up assets to bring in that player. They didn't have to give up anything to keep that player for that run last year, this, that, whatever. Going into this year, if a Kyle Connor-esque player was available on the market, would you want to trade the 2 firsts or whatever it's going to take to bring in a player like that? I don't know. Obviously, we don't know how this year is going to start. We don't know how this team is going to look or anything like that. But this is a player that you would have wanted the Winnipeg Jets to have traded for at the deadline last year. So I don't have any problem keeping him as a self-rental, right? Like that's the logic you need to use when looking at self-rentals. This is a little bit of a different situation. This is a more expensive player. So to bring him in at the trade deadline, it would be more expensive to bring him in. And the team might not be necessarily as good. So last year, looking at the best team with a really good player available, self-rental makes sense. This upcoming year, a good team, because I think the Winnipeg Jets will be a good team and pretty much one of the most elite goal scorers in the entire NHL. Like, I don't know what, like, it's not the same situation in that regard. So that's why I have no problem with the self-rental situation from Ehlers last year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it's something that we're going to keep monitoring here until Kyle Connor does sign an extension. And like I said, if we get to opening night and he's still without a contract, that's when it becomes a bigger concern for me. But it will absolutely remain a big conversation point for us here on the show. The next thing I want to do, Lyss, before we get to our thoughts on the Central Division as a whole going into this season. We'll get to our segments, which I saw people within 5 minutes were already giving their picks for trending up, down, but save it. We do have trending up, down coming later on, along with burning questions where we throw it to you, the chat, and you guys ask us questions and we try and rapid fire as many as we can. We do have those segments coming up, so stick around. But right now, Lyss, I want to play a little bit of an over-under game, and the chat can absolutely play along, and I'm sure they will. Now, I am the Vegas bookie in this scenario, okay? I'm making these lines. These are not publicly available lines that you can go look at. But I'm just curious as to Lyss's thoughts on these certain things. So I want to start, Lyss, with Jonathan Toews because I think...
Who?
Nice. I do think that Jonathan Toews early in the season is... next to the Kyle Connor contract, it's going to be the biggest national Jets story is Jonathan Toews because he's making his triumphant return to the NHL. But I will say it's fascinating just getting people's thoughts. And I know the chat is very divided on what people think he's going to be in the NHL. And I'll start with this. I'll start with an easy one, or it might be a tough one. Jonathan Toews, over or under 2.5 preseason games played?
Oh, I feel like I was like anticipating the games played situation, the point situation.
Give you points and games played, but I want to start
with under 2.5 preseason games. Okay. Yeah.
So the Jets play 6, 3 of which are at home. Usually one is a dress rehearsal at the end. So I'm locking that in. Yeah. Does he play 3? I can't see him playing 4, which is why I made the line 2.5.
I was gonna say great line, because I think if it was 3.5, I'd go under. Okay. I think I might still go under. I'm seeing a couple people putting their answers in the chat here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things. It's so hard. Like I think about preseason football and all this sort of stuff where it's like some players who are like, I need to play. And like, you know, they're wanting to get all warmed up and everything. And this is a guy who needs to get acclimatized to that game pace more than anyone else on this team. So I could see it, but I think I'm still going to go under.
Okay, I'm going to go over. I think he plays 3. I think he plays maybe the first preseason game, then he plays another one in the middle that's at home.
He just plays the 3 at home.
Yeah, he might, honestly. He might just play the 3 at home. I do think that...
I feel like it also really depends how they, like, go about it. Like, if they do, like, a white squad, blue squad, and, like, you know, prospect game after the prospect showcase in Montreal, whatever. Like, I don't know. It'd be really interesting, but...
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are saying it's pretty divided in the chat. More people are saying
good line.
Over.
I hope Connor's like, okay, good for me.
I have a second job as a line maker over at some bookies.
I'm about to make so much money.
Yeah, no, I'll start taking bets in the chat. No, I'm kidding. Jonathan Toews, over or under? We're in the regular season now. 43.5 points.
Under.
Under. Okay.
Just because I don't know. There's something. I think if Jonathan Toews plays 82 games with the Winnipeg Jets, I could see the over on that. But I feel like whether it's just like conditioning or anything, whatever, I don't know that he's going to play the full 82, whether it's like even just load management proactively and stuff like that. I think I'm going to go under on this one as well.
Interesting. Okay. And then does it play into, I'll just give you the last one on Jonathan Toews, 70.5 games played. 70.
I'm going to see, that's such an interesting number because it's like,
oh, I'm so good at this.
I know. Well, or I'm just bad at it. Like
or that.
For those of you watching for context, Connor told me that we were going to do this segment and he's like, do you want to know these and prep in advance, or do you want to just be like surprised on the fly and everyone can like watch your thought process? And I was kind of back and forth on it. And I was like, you know what? Let's take everyone along for the ride, because my thinking aloud, I'm sure, is really confusing everybody. But I'm going to go over, I think, which is a little bit weird considering what I said about the point totals and how I don't think he's going to play 82 games, but I guess I think he's going to play 72. But I think I'll go over. I think I'll go over, you know, get away from my under pattern.
I like it. I'm going to go over on both, I think. And I do think it's just because, well, actually for preseason games, I went over as well. I do think that the preseason, there is value for younger players, for prospects, and older players who are away from hockey for 2 years that need to get their hands and legs and game speed back under them. I do, Spency, making me laugh in the middle of my comment. I bet he plays exactly 70.5 games. I will say that I do think Jonathan Toews plays over 70 games. I do think that they're going to manage him in the preseason and maybe to start the season a little bit. And by manage him, I don't mean scratch him. I don't think that's going to be an option for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, just outright, second night of a back-to-back, Jonathan Toews isn't playing tonight. I don't think that'll happen. But I do think that his minutes will be a little bit lower. Maybe on the second night of a back-to-back, he plays a little bit less than he did the first night, and things of that nature. I will say,
and I like C-Mac's comment about also like the Olympic break has an interesting impact on what the load looks like for players across the board this year too. That's a long break, so
it's a long break. Nice. But because of the long break, the schedule is very condensed. Like the Jets play every other day. This is true. Or a back-to-back, or 3 and 4 nights. Like they're playing a ton when they actually are playing. So I will say, I'll say over. And then just quickly on points, I do think that Jonathan Toews is going to get the crack at second line center with Cole Perfetti and whoever else is on that wing. I think Jonathan Toews is going to be on the second power play, and points are very, very much a usage stat in my mind. And I think Jonathan Toews gets the games played because I'm taking the over on that. And because he plays, I think he plays as the second line center and gets the points to come along with it. So I'm going to go with over on everything. I think he plays 3 preseason games. I think he plays over 70 games and over 43.5 points. Are you ready for the next one, Lyss? So let's move on. Chat was very active there. Chat was ready with their thoughts. Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov combined games played over under 9.5. Last year they played 9 combined.
I'm going over. I'm going over 9.5. I'm going over. I think that this year, I feel like this team has some more question marks than last year. Like last year, I'm sorry, I never actually, you know, I'm sure you could go back and I probably said some insane stuff last fall. Who's to say? I don't know. This is the problem when you give me a platform to just go on and on and on. But I was looking at that forward group last year. We all knew this. This is the exact same forward group that they ended the season before with. There was no room. Yeah. There was no room. There are way more question marks with this lineup. There's not necessarily room. Like I understand that, you know, Tanner Pearson and Gustav Nyquist and all these guys are much more likely to be regulars in this lineup than someone like Brad Lambert or Nikita Chibrikov. But these guys might not hit. Some of these players and some of these new roles might not hit. We don't know. Last year, we knew who these players were. We knew what they were going to provide to the lineup, and we knew that they were pretty much a sure thing. Yeah. There's a lot more unknown with this forward group this year to me, which means that there's more opportunity for someone to come in and make an impact and stay, right? So I know that last year, Nikita Chibrikov came in and he was great and all that, and then whoever it was that was out on injury came back, and away Nikita Chibrikov went. I think that there's going to be a little bit more leniency this year with that sort of stuff. I could see there being, if a player comes in and does what they're supposed to do, whether it's one of those two players that you mentioned or someone like Cole Koepke, who, you know, might be the 13th or 14th forward. If he comes in and he starts killing the game, I don't know that David Gustafsson or Morgan Barron have their spot completely set in stone in this lineup. So I think that there might be a little bit of room to move there, just knowing that health is always a question mark, and knowing that this forward group is a little bit more different with some more external hires here. I'm going to go over on that one for the two of them combined. I don't know which player is going to maybe take that next step. I don't know if maybe it'll be an even split there, but I'm going to go over there. Okay, nice. I'm also going to go with over just because of I'm going to play the injury angle, and you can't really predict things like that. But I do think they got to 9 last year based off of injury. Like they were called up to play in relief of players who missed time. And I think this year they have a higher chance, both of them, of just making the team outright. So while I agree with you that there's maybe less room, I don't think those spots are necessarily as set in stone as they were last year, where it's like Mason Appleton is playing 17 minutes a night on Adam Lowry's hip, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like that is happening. This year, not as much. I just don't think that if Gustav Nyquist starts the season with 4 points in his first 35 games, that it's like, oh, this is all fine. No need to worry. He's going to keep playing second line minutes. I think there's a higher chance that they win off of merit, win a spot off of merit and get into the lineup this year than there was last year, where the top 6 was pretty crowded. So Brad Lambert didn't really have much of a chance if they were going to choose Nemestikov over him, which he did. He did have a chance to, you know, dethrone Nemestikov in training camp, but I will say that over combined 9.5 games played. The next one, and Jay Miller saw into the future here. He had a comment a little while back saying Connor Hellebuyck games played. Last year, let me just bring up his games played number, but I'm going to ask you, Lyss, over under 60.5 games played. Last year, he played 63. Oh, boy.
60.
Good line, Connor. Good line.
Thank you.
Okay. Listen, this is so funny because we did this last year with the whole idea of like one of the McDonald's breakfast bets that we made with Jacob, who we miss dearly. And I can't believe it's been 42 minutes without bringing him up. But
I've had less McDonald's so far this year. Carry on.
We talked about the whole idea of Nikita Chibrikov, will he get sent down, whatever. And it was the whole concept of this year will be different. I can fix him, you know, sort of thing, where it's like, I feel like we often look at the team and say, okay, this is the pattern, but maybe things will look a little bit different this time around. And I feel like I say this most years, but I mean it this year. I think they're going to loan manage him a little bit more. I understand that Connor Hellebuyck wants to play. I understand that it is mostly his decision to play more games than the average NHL starting goaltender. But I think that last year was a big learning experience for this entire Winnipeg Jets group. And I think that the team and probably Connor himself are probably understanding that maybe it's okay to have a little bit more of a managed load, especially because Connor Hellebuyck is also going to be playing in the Olympics, just like he played in the Four Nations last year. Yeah. That's not just 63 games. That's 68 or whatever it was, right? Like that's a lot. And not having the same rest that everyone's going to and everything like that. I'm really, really hoping it's the under. And I think that this year is the year that we finally see it be the under a little bit more. I think that last year's playoff experience probably meant a lot to this team in terms of what they know they're capable of, in terms of where they can set their own boundaries and stuff like that. So I'm going under on that one.
Yeah, I like that. I just, this falls into the same camp. You brought up Jacob and the breakfast bets, where last year Nikita Chibrikov got called up because of injury and played 4 games and looked good in those games. And Jacob and I made a breakfast bet that he gets sent back down. I forget who was coming back from injury at the time, but we made the breakfast bet that when that player returns, he gets sent down. And it's like, this is just what the Winnipeg Jets do. And I think it's just an absolute layup that Connor Hellebuyck is going to play 60 plus games. We can talk about it, and it's something that we'll continue to talk about is Connor Hellebuyck's workload as he gets through his 30s as a goaltender, right? Like, that's a big talking point. I just don't know if coming off an MVP season, the Jets are going to be able to, in a season as well, where they might be in more of a race to actually make the playoffs. I do think that they're not going to be able to hold back on playing their workhorse starter almost every single night like we've seen over the last number of years. I think I don't think he crushes 60 and a half games played, but I think he's right around in that range, 63, 64, that he has been the last number of seasons. The last one, before we get to our segments today, Lyss, and this one is, I think, the most fun one that I'm going to ask you. For context, last year, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabriel Vilardi played 907 minutes together at 5-on-5. That was the most by far in the NHL. Second place was Troy Terry, Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano on Anaheim with 742. Third was 704 minutes with the Montreal Canadiens top line, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield. And fourth was 668 with Lafreniere, Trocheck, and Panarin on the Rangers. So my question to you, Lyss, do Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabriel Vilardi play over or under 700 minutes together at 5-on-5 this season? Last year, they played 900. That line was very set in stone. The line we saw the most in the NHL at 5-on-5. Do they come close to that? Do they? Because 700 would still be first or still be second, folks. Like that's still really high. 700 and a half minutes. We'll give it a half minute. Because why not?
That's a great question. This is the type of stuff that I eat up. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity, Connor Hrabchak. I am fascinated to hear the different lines that you listed kind of after that, because I remember Slavkovsky played like a decent amount of time, even with like a couple games with Patrick Laine here and there and stuff like that. Like that line was not like their line. They were obviously one of the most played lines in the league, but I just remember watching Montreal Canadiens games where they were not together. Like there's a huge fall off between that 900 plus minute range and where those guys are at. Right. I'm going to go with over. And this actually falls into, this is like the third point to this same, will things be different with, young guys playing, Connor Hellebuyck playing, and then also the line blender with that top 6 line. And, this goes back to the very first point I brought up on the show when you kind of opened up the floor for me to give my thoughts on the season. And I circled the middle 6 in terms of, we just don't know what's going to happen there, what it's going to look like. There's so many unknown factors coming in to play such big roles. I think that the team should and will have a little bit of room for creativity in terms of what they think fits in terms of getting the most out of those top 6 players. And if that means playing Cole Perfetti and Kyle Connor together, maybe that's a bad example. Cole Perfetti and Gabe Vilardi together, because I'm sure Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor will be together. I don't think that we need to be reinventing the wheel here. Let's be real. But I think the team can and will be open to that, just because they also understand and acknowledge how much turnover has occurred in that middle six role with those different players. So I'm still going to go with the over, because I think, you circled the Nyquist, Toews, Cole Perfetti. Like, I think that that's just kind of the natural second line, especially when Adam Lowry comes back from injury and you can go back to running that line into the ground with, the tough matchups and all that sort of stuff. I don't think we're going to see 900 minutes of them again. I really don't. But if they're all healthy, whatever the percentages of their playing time that would equal 700 minutes, I think we'll see that when they're all healthy and playing together.
So a 700-minute pace, even if they're
that's exactly it.
Parts. That question is essentially, do you think the Jets will have more creativity when it comes to line combinations this year? Yes or no? When talking about the 700 minutes and whether or not they reach that with the
when
top
you put
line.
It that way,
because. Like you said, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele almost certainly playing together for 700 plus minutes. Like that I don't think is the question. It's Gabriel Vilardi and can Cole Perfetti move up there, who's really the only option to kind of move up to that top line, I'd say. I mean, you could try a Niederreiter or an Iafallo has moved up there when Vilardi has struggled in the past, right? But they did that last year.
We sort of talked about this, right? Where it's like, do you spread the wealth a little bit and like
they might
get away from these... And the specified roles we talked about earlier, the second line doesn't really have a role per se, by my view. And so if you were to give them one and create something for that, does that require a little bit of redistribution at that top end talent?
Yeah, and they might have to do it out of necessity this year, spread the wealth, because of the loss of Nikolai Ehlers. They might just not have that top six scoring punch that they're used to, and they might have to spread the wealth and try Kyle Connor with Cole Perfetti so that Gabriel Vilardi can contribute in a second line role and maybe feast on some easier competition. So there's definitely, line combinations are probably, it's definitely in the top three of, topics that we'll talk about the most over the course of the season.
The with or without you tool is coming out.
Coming soon. I should say, Lyss, on Friday, and I know a lot of people have requested this from us, and Schnitzy, who I see in chat, has also requested this. We have a new, we have a new YouTube video coming where Lyss and I explain kind of the popular analytics, how to read them, how to use them, the positives and the negatives that come with each analytic that we use on Natural Stat Trick or Money Puck. We reference analytics a ton on this show on WST Sunday Live. You'll hear us throughout the season saying, this defense pairing has a 62% expected goal share over the last month. What does that mean? And we dive into all of that. It's roughly a 40-minute kind of breakdown, intro to analytics, everything that we know about those popular analytics, how to read them, how to do your own research. Listen, I have that coming soon. So if you've wanted to learn more about hockey analytics, and we try and just give you the basics, the three most simple hockey analytics that you can, really dive into on Natural Stat Trick and Money Puck and things like that, we made that video. It's coming soon. We edited it. It's about 40 minutes. It's a long one. But you got to buckle in because you get Lyss talking about analytics and it's tough to stop.
Whoops.
So if you wanted to learn more about hockey analytics, we have that video coming soon and we hope you enjoyed. And speaking of WST content coming soon, I see Schnitzy's in chat. WST Bombers Report, where we break down the Banjo Bowl. Lots to talk about.
Poor me doesn't have to be part of that one.
That will be coming out tomorrow morning as well. So check that out tomorrow morning. And we'll let you know as well. Stay glued to our socials when that video with Lyss and I breaking down hockey analytics, kind of an intro to analytics. We'll let you know when that's on the channel, and maybe it'll be premiering out of next Sunday's Sunday Live. We will let you know on next Sunday's edition of WST Sunday Live. But Lyss, it's time. We've made the people wait long enough. It's time to get back to everyone's favorite segment, Trending Up, Trending Down. This is the segment where we pick one Winnipeg Jet who's usually playing games. This is a season segment. We pick one Winnipeg Jet who is trending up or down over the last week of play. Now, the Winnipeg Jets haven't played. Preseason starts in a couple of weeks. So we're going to have to get a little creative with this one, but drop your picks for trending up, down in the comments down below. Lyss, I'll let you go first. Who's your pick for trending up, even with the Winnipeg Jets not playing games?
You guys, guess what? My trending up pick, the Manitoba Moose.
Wow, nice.
I really liked the offseason that the Manitoba Moose had in terms of bringing in some players who are players. I understand that they've had a lot of college signings and PTOs and that sort of stuff in the past, ECHL call-ups and that sort of stuff, which is fine. It's the AHL, whatever. But I think that the team is cognizant of the fact that over the next season or two, they're going to have a couple more of their young gung-ho prospects, the Braden Yagers of the world, coming up and playing some meaningful AHL minutes with the club. So they want to up the caliber, frankly, of the team and the players that they have. So I really liked their July 1st through 3rd. They had a couple of signings that spilled over past free agency day. But there are a couple guys that, let's be real, could literally get scooped up on waivers from this this group of signings. Some guys, they had brought in a guy who won the Calder Cup with the Abbotsford Canucks, a couple different things like that, right? So they have some guys who are fringe NHLers who could get scooped up on waivers. Those guys probably won't, because we know how crazy waivers are at the beginning of the season. But I think that there's a lot of depth to this Manitoba Moose team this year that's going to make them a little bit more competitive and frankly a better place for the prospects to develop. I don't have any bad things to say about the Manitoba Moose from last year. Maybe I do. I don't know. We're not going to get into that right now. But I think that I really like the way they're looking right now and kind of what they're shaping up to be coming into this season. So as always, I will be locked in on the Manitoba Moose just to see kind of what's going on there, because I think that there are a couple players that I really like that they brought in to kind of shore up the depth there.
Yes, I love that pick. The Manitoba Moose won free agency. No, but seriously, like surrounding the younger prospects and the players that have spent years on the Manitoba Moose, like Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov, who will probably be there to start the year, surrounding them with quality AHL talent, I think is the best way to have them develop, have them progress year over year, is making them a good team, making the Manitoba Moose a good team. And they absolutely tried to do that this offseason with the signings. They brought in some experienced quality AHL players, and I think that will pay dividends, whether it comes to, Elias Salamonson playing with a Cale Clegg, or Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov playing with some quality scoring talent in the AHL. I really do think that will help. I will say this comment is hilarious from Luke. Trending up Chevy's fishing. When I saw this photo, and I'm going to bring it up here, of Kevin Cheveldayoff, I was like, oh man, this is going to be the latest Jets meme. Kevin Cheveldayoff with the fish. This is actually Aikens Lake, Winnipeg Sports Talk sponsor, Aikens Lake. Great to see them back up and running again after the wildfires that Hustler was posting about, and he was, in the thick of it, really. So great to see Aikens Lake. Great to see Kevin Cheveldayoff enjoying his offseason and having some fishing there on the lake, because I as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is the next Chevy meme. There's many Chevy memes. This is the next one. My trending up pick, and someone said it earlier in chat, and it was a great pick, and I'm going to steal it. Adam Lowry. He's skating, which is really interesting. I mean, he got surgery at the end of May on his hip, and that was a 5 to 6 month recovery timeline, is what they said. We're about 4 months since that. The Winnipeg Jets are starting training camp in a few weeks, and he's already on the ice. Now, Murat Atesh from The Athletic did, have a post watching Adam Lowry skating at training camp. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. Adam Lowry was on the ice. He described it as, tender skating or ginger skating, where he's not really he's moving, he's skating, which is still an amazing sign, but he's not, making these tight turns and doing all of these incredible things quite yet, which is to be expected. But the fact that he's even skating, I think, is worthy of a trending up pick. So Adam Lowry's my pick for trending up. He's already on the ice, which is a great sign for the Winnipeg Jets. And the less they go without him to start the season, the better. And that goes without saying. Liz, who's your pick for trending down?
Listen, I feel like I have to. I was coming up with a couple of ideas for this, and I had, the white space in my Google Calendar was circled for one, because I was looking at my fall, and I was like, oh my gracious. But I, unfortunately, for old time's sake, trending down Mason Appleton. He had a lot of trending down picks last year. No reason beyond the fact that we just won't be able to do it anymore. I think, Ville Heinola got a lot of trending down picks last year. Logan Stanley got a lot of trending down picks last year. So did Mason Appleton. We're not going to be able to do that anymore. So just for old time's sake, no reason beyond the fact that I know I talked about him a lot already on this episode here of WST Sunday Live. But, just got to throw it in there because he's not going to be a part of this conversation anymore. So Rip King.
Yeah, and that's a great pick. Waiter says trending up. Me watching the show live. I usually watch this Sunday night. Yeah, for people who are watching us on the replay, listening to the podcast, thank you for checking out WST Sunday Live. Come join us Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. If you wake up, it's an absolute blast. The chat has a lot of fun. They're in mid-season form already on this Sunday morning. I thought spirits might be down after what happened yesterday. We don't need to mention it again, but no, the chat is in full force. Excited for Jets season. My trending down pick, days remaining as a Winnipeg Jet for Ville Heinola, trending down. He's going to be put on waivers very soon. Do you have that over-under list that you mentioned earlier? Because
I don't know. I had circled, I can't remember what it was, but I didn't even write it down after we already spoke more about Ville Heinola than any other show should be talking about their ninth depth defenseman. But I believe the date that I had circled was October 6th, that Monday of the week that that camp starts. So under, he gets waived before that.
I think no, I'm being an ass.
Does he get picked up on waivers, Connor?
I think he does.
Really? Because I don't think he does anymore.
Really? I think Ville Heinola gets put on waivers and claimed. I do. And I think Jets Twitter is going to be just a hilarious day that day. I do think that's what happens. I really do. But I'm going to take Ville Heinola for trending down because we outlined it earlier. He's facing a tough battle to make this team 9 defensemen on the roster, and he's no longer waivers eligible as he wasn't last year either. Obviously, last year as well, he started on the third pairing in training camp, and then he got injured. And then I believe it was Logan Stanley that got hurt. And that allowed the Jets to carry more defensemen into the season because of injury. So that could happen. But I just, assuming health, which you kind of have to do when analyzing the upcoming Winnipeg Jets season, he's facing a pretty tough battle to make this team. So that was trending up, down. Thank you so much, everyone, for dropping your picks in the comments down below. I see CMAC trending down, summer, waiters. It's going to be hot weather this week. It is. It's going to get a lot warmer. It was wild. I woke up this morning and saw it was like 4 degrees when I woke up. It really is getting chilly. And yesterday at the Bomber game, I was chilly. It was pretty cold at the Bomber game.
What did you wear? Give us the fit description.
Just a hoodie.
You wore a hoodie, okay.
Pants. Yeah, I did go hoodie though. I did.
Okay.
In my family, they always ask me if they should wear a hoodie or a hat. What's the weather going to be like? Is it going to get cold enough that I need a blanket to bring? And I was like, yeah, all of it. Hoodie, everything. It's going to get chilly, which I like, by the way. I had this take, and if you're a loyal WST Sunday Live listener, you'll remember this take. The West Final was happening. I believe it was last year because it was on this show that I said the West Final was happening, and the forecast was like +8. And I was like, no. This is ridiculous. It's the West Final outdoors in Winnipeg. I want to be freezing. I want to be cold. That's like part of the experience.
8 is still kind of cold, dude.
It was 8 like yesterday. That's
I know.
But yesterday it was perfect.
I thought it was like 12. But...
Yesterday was it was like 12, but yesterday was perfect. It was a nice crisp fall day, a cold breeze. It's the Banjo Bowl. It's a fall day. It needs to be a little chilly. This is a dumb take, but it's so something funny. I stand by.
My perception of football is notoriously a fall sport. It is a fall sport, but in my experience, it's a summer sport because I go to Bomber games in the summertime and all these different things. And I've literally never been to an NFL or college football game in my life. So I'm football's a summer sport, but I'm I feel like it adds to the feeling of football when it's a little bit chilly, Exactly. I'm with you on it, but also for the vibes does not trump my own comfort necessarily, and I don't want to be. I remember the West Final, the year that the Bombers went on to win the Grey Cup in 2021. I guess it would have been. Cold. Was so cold. It was so cold, and I
loved every second of it.
I was wearing a cowboy hat and Chris Strevler fur coat to that game.
Nice.
And the fur coat was not warm at all, and I had to take off the cowboy hat and put on a toque in between, to warm up my ears because I was freezing. But if anyone cares. That's funny. That was the same day as the Logan Stanley game, the Jason Spence and Neil Pionk day. So that day lives in my head forever.
I remember going, Spency, it was God. December 5th, 2021. I remember, and a lot of people did the doubleheader that day. I remember going to the Bomber game. They won. I was frozen. I still remember, it popped up in my YouTube recommendations the other day, but Huss had a reel leaving the Bomber Stadium, and he's wearing a full scarf toque. You can see his breath clear as day. It was freezing cold that day. And then you go to the Jets game, against the Leafs, and they beat the Leafs too. I mean, they beat the Riders and then beat the Leafs. That was one of the best days ever.
It was a great day.
And then but like you're just sitting there at the Jets game and it's not warm enough in there to like thaw out. So you're just sitting there freezing cold. I remember that. I'll never forget my toes just being absolutely frozen from the Bomber game. And then the Jets game wasn't even, I mean, it was still pretty cold in there. Not quite as cold, but yeah, that was a day I'll remember for quite a while. Let's get to our second segment list. And I see C-Mac in chat is asking about fantasy football. We're 2 hours away from the start of the NFL season. I mean, the NFL season started, but it really starts today.
It really starts today.
Red Zone. I can't wait to watch all these commercials. No, I'm kidding. We don't need to, we can maybe get into that later, but we are going to talk about Lyss and I in the WST Listener League and both of our teams. I didn't draft my team. I inherited it. And we'll take it over. We'll make it a good team. We'll make it a winning team. I will, instill that culture. But I will say, before we get to the fantasy football, we have one more segment, and this is a very fun segment. This is One Burning Question. This is the segment where we throw it to you, the chat, and you ask us Winnipeg Jets questions, and we rapid fire as many as we can right here on WST Sunday Live. So drop your questions in the chat below. And Lyss, let me ask you, what are you expecting? This is my one burning question, and it's going to catch you off guard because it's a wild one. What are you expecting Jonathan Toews' goal song to be? Like the not the song itself, but this is such like a fascinating, like, is it going to be some like trendy, like I can't see, like his Captain Serious. It's going to be like
Mozart, like concerto or something.
Yeah, or is
like,
it going to be like an AC/DC, just like rock song? Like,
I'm going classic rock.
Okay.
I'm going classic rock. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It feels good based on what I know about the player and his vibe a little bit, just like guessing. And also, frankly, the vibe of the rest of the team. We got a lot of AC/DC in there, some more like 80s, 90s rock a little bit. So I'm going to go with that's the genre I'm going to pinpoint.
Interesting. I'm so fascinated to know. Like that's
like I don't think he's gonna rip an Adam Lowry, like Sabrina Carpenter, like whatever sort of like vibe.
There's no way.
No
way. Like Jonathan Toews
like
scores
Taylor
and it's like
Swift.
espresso. Taylor Swift.
Yeah, no, don't think so.
Like I'll say this right now. If Jonathan Toews picks a Taylor Swift song, I don't buy it. I think that's a choice from like the Jets, media team saying like,
the game presentation was like, oh God.
Here, take this song. Like Jonathan Toews walks in and goes, I'm not picking a song. What is this? And then they go, okay, we'll give you Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Like, I don't know. I think
Look at him, Chelsea Dagger.
Oh, Chelsea Dagger's interesting.
No way. No shot. No shot. Don't even.
No shot.
No shot. Come on. That's sacred to. That's a different chapter.
It is.
Come on. Yeah.
It is. Comet going AC/DC shoots a thrill. I mean, that's Scheifele's. So he'd have to get that off of Scheifele. But let's get to one burning question. We already see some questions loading up in the chat. Really appreciate it. Bryson, who always brings the strong questions every single Sunday. Great to see you, Bryson. One burning question. If Lambert and Chibrikov make the team, who gets waived? Gustafsson, Koepke, or Pearson? Gut call says Gustafsson for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
It's not Koepke. I don't think it's Koepke. It's Pearson.
Oh, okay. To me, it's not Pearson either.
Interesting.
I was flirting with Gustafsson or Koepke. I don't think it's Pearson. I think Pearson's my last pick on this list. I think that there's a little bit more offensive potential with. I think Gustafsson. You know what you're getting at this point, and the question is, do you like that enough? Is that constant enough for you? I don't think that there's like, I have been sitting on the Gus bus train of like, I think there's a little bit more there for about 4 years now. So I think that we're probably, what we see is what we get with him. But I feel like Gustafsson is my number 2 in this. And I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good question. It's a very good question.
It is a great question because we talk about the logjam on defense and the Jets, not going to be waiving really any of those players except for Ville Heinola, which is what we're expecting. But offensively, I mean, if Lambert and Chibrikov make the team, like the question says, they will have to get rid of one of those players. So my gut says David Gustafsson, but again, all of these players are bottom 6 players, and in training camp, one player could win a spot over the other, and it could change a lot very quickly. But I'll say Gustafsson to answer the question. Waiters, will the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup this season? I don't know, man.
I plead the 5th.
I plead the 5th as well. I mean, they get MVP Connor Hellebuyck? Yes. In the playoffs, I mean. In the playoffs. That's what I meant to say. MVP Connor Hellebuyck in the playoffs. Yes, they can. Will they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who's to say?
Will they? I don't know. Can they? Yes. I'll say they can. Which team? Oh yeah, this is CMAC for fantasy football. We'll get into that in a second. We'll get into that. David asked, do you think Connor will leave like Marner left the Leafs? I mean, we use Marner as a comparable in terms of the 12/8 contract. He just walked in free agency, and we said,
no,
you can't let a player like that walk for nothing. The Leafs did, right? The Leafs did.
Jets
but
won't.
You don't think
Jets won't.
No.
This is, and again, I won't rehash the thing I got into earlier about the Nikolai Ehlers comparable, whatever. It's not happening. If this player doesn't have intentions of signing with the Winnipeg Jets, I would be shocked if he led them on and entered a little situationship with them. If they're like, of course I will, baby, kind of thing. Like, no, I don't think. I think this gets resolved pretty quickly.
Sure.
One way or another.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you on that. The chat is having a blast with our conversation about what Jonathan Toews' goal song will be. I mean, T. Will is saying, I think it'll be an instructional audiobook on how to play hockey. He's Captain Serious. Waiters likes your pick, Chelsea Dagger. Al Broderick, how's it going, Al? Always here on Sundays as well. The song Jet by Wings. Phyllis says Loverboy is my prediction, or Street Heart, something classic.
Oh, a Winnipeg classic rock song, like a Harlequin song or something. Oh, that would be...
Feels like the first time by Foreigner. Spencey, his goal song is going to be an audiobook reading off the dictionary. So very similar to T. Will, but a little different.
No goal song, just horn.
Just horn and then silence. Everyone sit back down. That's what Jonathan Toews will pick. No, but that was great. Thank you so much. Or actually,
a French song. A French Canadian song. That's what I want.
Song. Wow, like
some French Canadian, some Simple Plan or something. Get it in there.
One of those like Canadian songs that you thought was like a massive global hit, but then like years later you found out it was just a Canadian song, and it was like, oh.
Me with all of my dad's classic rock music that I'm like, oh my gosh, the Guess Who is bigger than the Who, and he's like, no.
No. What do you think the third pair looks like this year? I truly think this is a great question from Luke. I truly think it's gonna go by a game basis. If they're playing the San Jose Sharks or the Utah Mammoth, a team that's, dynamite off the rush or projects to be fast and get you up the ice, I think it'll be Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller, or one of the two. And then if they play the St. Louis Blues and they're expecting it to be a very physical game, I think it'll be Stanley and Shen. Like, I think they're really, especially with the schedule being as condensed as it is, I really think that they're going to move around that third pair as much as they possibly can based on matchup, based on the game plan that they want to go into that game with. Lyss, do you agree? What do you think the third pair looks like?
Yeah, last year we saw a massive rotating cast on that third pair, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a similar thing this year. I don't think any player has a set spot among Luke Shen, Hayden Fleury, Logan Stanley, Colin Miller. I think that some guys will play more than others. I don't think there's going to be an even split across the board of them all playing 41 games or anything like that. But I think I would be really pleased to see it go the way you said of playing players based on who the opponent is and who stylistically matches up a little bit more and everything like that. And also trying different pairings and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think Hayden Fleury is my dark horse. I saw someone in the chat mention earlier that they think that he might get put on waivers. He's my dark horse to play more games than we think that he's going to.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm fascinated to see what they do with that third pair. I mean, the third pair is just such a layup for content,
It's a nothing burger, but it's so fun.
It's such a layup.
Leave it to us. We'll do an entire Sunday live just talking about the third pairing always.
Exactly. It's such a layup for content. Just the third pair is such a lightning rod, especially with Logan Stanley being on the third pair. It's going to be a conversation throughout the season. I can tell you that without a doubt. That was one burning question. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting questions. If you can't make it on Sunday mornings with us live and you want to submit a question, fire Lyss and I a message on Twitter, a DM, and submit your question in advance for one burning question, and we can get to it live on the show. But thank you, everyone, for joining us live right here on WST Sunday Live as we count down to Winnipeg Jets season. We count down to the first NFL Sunday in about an hour. And Lyss, you and I are facing one another in the WST Listener League. Now, let me explain my team quickly for a second, because I did not draft this team. I inherited this team and I am managing this team. And you just so happen to be my first opponent going into week one. So here are the teams. Lyss's team is Justin Fields at quarterback. It's a 1 QB, 2 wide receiver, half PPR, 12-team league. Bucky Irving and Aaron Jones are Lyss's running backs. CeeDee Lamb, Stonehands CeeDee Lamb. Tyreek Hill are the wide receivers. David Njoku in the flex. David Njoku tight end. Terry McLaurin in the flex. Seahawks defense and Cairo Santos as her kicker. My team is Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, David Montgomery, Jalen Warren, Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas, Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams, and I've changed this defense and kicker since the making of this graphic.
I will change mine every single week. So
I'm going with the Cardinals defense this week because they play the Saints. Good matchup.
There you go. Yeah.
But Liz, how are you feeling? Week 1 of fantasy in the WST Listener League.
So T. Will was giving me some grief in the chat here because basically I need to tell you guys what happened here. I could not draft live for the beginning of the draft here. So I had made my massive queue, making sure that I excluded Christian McCaffrey because I was like, I'm not drafting this guy. I'm in 4 fantasy football leagues this year, guys, because I just say yes to every single league that people ask me to be in, I think. But I put the cap at 4. I had to say no to a few, but different walks of life, different teams, all this. No Christian McCaffreys. No AJ Browns either, in case anyone's curious. Nice. No Xavier Worthies either, but no Christian McCaffrey. And I had I kind of had my phone in my pocket because I was doing some other stuff while this draft was going on. And just at the time, I was kind of looking at who was at the top of my queue when I was up to draft. And I was like, okay, yeah, looking good. I was like, oh, Garrett Wilson's still available. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. And then I realized when I sat down to do the depth draft, after 6 picks, I had picked 5 wide receivers in a 2 wide receiver league. And I was like, oh, whoops. So that was fully not intentional. In my head, I guess I can gaslight and be like, oh, I thought it was a 3 wide receiver league. I think I honestly was just looking at the best player available who was in my queue at the time of my draft picks. But in my head, I think I did think it was a 3 wide receiver league, but that's probably a pretty sad excuse. But I hate my quarterbacks. I hate my depth of everything but wide receivers. Whoa, Shut up. I'm playing Justin Fields over Brock Purdy.
We can make a trade right now. Brock Purdy's my guy. We can make
if you want him.
Yeah.
Give me a running back, but
yeah, I don't have those either.
Yeah. We had some fun in the chat with that draft, and I'm really excited to get the trash talk going in this league here. But Tyreek, I believe my Miami Dolphins, so that's why I'm playing him, and if he ends up kind of getting anywhere near his initial season with the Miami Dolphins form, we will be cooking with gas here. That's a pretty sweet grab a little bit later in the draft, but I'm not holding out hope. I think this Daniel Jones game today could really hurt my soul beyond.
Yeah, that is that'll be tough. That'll be the Dolphins.
I need to look at your team a little bit more closely.
Yeah, go for it.
I gotta put the glasses on. I made this graphic. I just didn't look at anything. Right. Oh, Brock Bowers at tight end. Was that your first pick?
No, first pick was Jefferson. And then at the turn, it was Bowers and then Brian Thomas. And then coming back again, it was Mahomes and Devontae Adams. And then it was Montgomery and Warren. And then, and then the rest are the rest.
Overall.
But, 3 overall. So
did you add auto into the draft or into this graphic here? Did I do that?
No, you did that, but I auto draft.
I did.
So
I gave you.
Waiter says, Connor, why didn't you take any 49ers? Oh, I would have if I was drafting this team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a guy that usually likes to take Bowers because I think Kittle will have an equally as good fantasy season, if not better. And I think you're getting him 2 rounds later. So I would have taken some 49ers. I definitely would have taken a running back at some point. But hey, we're here. This is my team. And Patrick Mahomes put up 26 points for me on Friday night. So that's not a bad start. Liz has CeeDee Lamb, 14.5 points on Thursday night, even though he could have had probably 30 with all the drops he had. But yeah, we'll have to keep everyone posted next Sunday on who won week 1 of the WST Listener League.
I'm not feeling too hot about my season here, but one thing about me is that if I'm in a fantasy football league, I do always have the intention of ending the season with a completely different roster than the season I started with. So if you're listening and you're in this league, send me a trade. I will probably decline it because I know that you guys are going to try and shaft me with this, but I am willing to engage in trade talks here. The phones are open. I'm not out fishing on the lake. I'm ready to go. I got the Greg Cronin white monster energy on the phone. That's me. I'm ready to send Garrett Wilson your way for a little bit of running back depth.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is again, Connor, with 8 wide receivers. Yeah, I didn't draft this team, but we're gonna instill a great culture. And yeah, C-Mac, you got to be loving that Javonte Williams pick after week 1. He was on my bench, unfortunately, and I'm starting 2 running backs that I'm almost certain won't get 19 points. So I'm kind of choked about that, but I do love the fact that he'll be in my lineup next week for sure, and I'll definitely be chasing those points from Thursday night. I will just give a quick update on the Winnipeg Media Fantasy League as well, which Yahoo graded me a D- draft grade and told me
it's a horrible team, Connor.
It's not. It's okay. So Yahoo said I was going to go 2-12. And they said that I had a D- draft grade, and my worst draft pick was Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert put up 28 points on Friday night against the Chiefs, who have a pretty good defense. And it's a super flex, so like quarterbacks matter more than the league that you and I are in.
Is he your best quarterback in a super flex, though?
No, I have Burrow. I took Burrow in the 1.
Oh,
yeah, like
that's your okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Like my team's good. My team's good.
I was not familiar with your game. I like those quarterbacks in a super flex. I really do.
Running Man says Yahoo said I was gonna go 0-14. That means you're winning your league. Don't even think about it. Like Yahoo makes no sense with their predictions. Again, I took
Sounds
Justin
like
Herbert.
Cope. Sounds like Cope.
Well, we'll see. I might get halfway to their win projection today. I might win today.
I was shocked by how low a lot of these apps were rating Justin Herbert this year in terms of quarterback depth.
Exactly. You know ball.
And I'm the first one to talk smack about Justin Herbert as a Tua girl, but like, come on, like let's be realistic here. I think
it's the Madison Beer effect.
Yeah.
Madison Beer
I know.
effect.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying. We saw Christian McCaffrey's year after he got engaged to Olivia Culpo.
Exactly.
We saw Josh Allen's year after he got engaged to Haley Steinfeld. Hard launch with Madison Beer, or paparazzi soft launch, I guess. it's coming in for Justin Herbert.
That was the method to the madness for that pick, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely why I took this.
I know ball.
Anyways, that's our little fantasy football rant. Maybe we'll keep people posted throughout the season. But that was episode 1 of WST Sunday Live, episode 1 of season 2. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. We will be live every Sunday throughout the season. We're going to be at FanFest as well, which we're super excited for. And we'll be back next Sunday with more Jets topics, maybe a full training camp preview, as that's the last show heading into camp. The battles we're watching for. Come on by, drop your picks for Trending Up Down and burning questions. We love all of you joining us here on Sunday mornings. Lyss, anything else you want to say before we head out of today's WST Sunday Live?
Not too much. I think this is so fun to get kind of back into the swing of things. I feel like we were kind of off and on over the course of the summer, Dylan Sandberg signing, Gabe Velarde signing, whatever, but really excited to get kind of back into the cadence of chatting with you guys every single week. And, we're here to talk about all things Winnipeg Jets, talk for 45 minutes about the third pair, if that's what you guys want. So as always, send Connor and I a message on Twitter, drop your comments in the YouTube, whether you're live in the chat or after the fact, because we always read them as well. We love having fun with you guys, and we want to talk about the content that you guys are interested in too. So always open to suggestions and always want to chat with you. We have so much fun doing this. So we're really glad to be back, seeing all of our familiar faces and some new ones here in the chat.
Exactly. And we have a very active chat room, and we're very grateful for that. The over-under segment that we did, that might have to be a weekly segment at this point, because I was asking you stuff and the chat was just flooded with people giving their thoughts. So you guys are always on it with Trending Up Down, burning questions, all those things. So we appreciate you stopping by. Tell a friend about WST, tell a friend about WST Sunday Live, and we will see you all next Sunday on the next edition of WST Sunday Live, 9 a.m. right here on YouTube. Have a good week, everyone. Enjoy the Bomber game Friday. Hopefully they bounce back. WST Bombers report coming Monday, and we'll see you Sunday. Have a good one, everyone.